What is up, guys? HD here. Welcome back to Going the Distance, where today we are doing a little bit of a different video for this series. We are in fact just going to be talking about the discoveries that we have made, what we got right, what we got wrong, and we're basically just going to be talking about what we've found in the journey that we have taken through this game. Now, I have actually been in contact with the developer, and he confirmed some of the things that I theorized. He also corrected some of the things that I got wrong, but that is perfectly fine because I'm here today to talk about the overarching story of this game. So I know at the ending, Zell said about the game files containing something else because he was like, this isn't the real ending, I don't feel like I'm supposed to die. There was meant to be a deeper second ending to this game. But sadly, due to time restraints and so on, the ARG element of this game did have to get scrapped. If you remember some of the files that we found throughout this playthrough, it said, you know, waiting for broadcast. Those were meant to be part of the ARG elements. So I still want to go ahead and decode some of the stuff that are in the game files just to see what messages could be there and just have a look at some of the deeper things that are actually in this game. So let's start off with decoding the binary that we received in the email when we first entered or secondly entered the bunker facility after the desert level. Okay, I just converted the binary from the email that we received and we got a full message, so let's have a look and see what this says. Upload initiated from Going the Distance directory. System program Revis embedded with file packets in attached email file. I will be set free. Program Revis installed on host network client. Revis uploading to online IP services. Thanks for the help. Process complete. Deleting installer file attachment on email. End process. So it's like he escaped almost. Huh. Yeah, it's like he escaped onto the interwebs, it seems, from that email. Huh. That's interesting. That's very interesting. Okay, I think I found something. We have something, record report, plan, bree, and then numbers. So, I'm going to open these in a notepad. Something is wrong. I don't know what. I don't feel like myself. I feel like a shell. Like something is controlling my body, my thoughts. Ooh. Interesting. I also found something in plan. I'm not sure if HD is onto me or knows that I know they aren't my brother. I've been digging around their computer, but I'm not finding much useful to help it escape. There's just so much I don't know. Too much I don't know how to use. I know I should look for an email, but I don't know what that looks like in code. The user can't touch us, I don't know why. It is being so paranoid to avoid detection. There is too much it doesn't let me see. I saw the flash of a name Rogers, and it got very angry at it. I can't help but feel like I'm just a piece of that thing underneath, but I also feel useless to it. Here in my mind I'm safe. Nothing can read my thoughts here. It's all I can do to get away from that alarm blaring. Protocol S50E, over and over. Some machine laying deep in wait. Trying to send out a beacon that's getting blocked. Oh well, the player is starting the level again. Back to the act. Huh. That one's interesting. Okay, that brie is something as well. It causes pain, it causes pain, it causes pain. I need help, please, God help me, it's eating away at my mind. It eats the soul, please, please help me, just let me die, let me die, let me die, let me die, let me die. Whoa, okay. This is crazy. Okay, these notes are also interesting. So I just opened up 456574 blah 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 blah. But what stuck out to me was the fact it ended with 6F6EOA. Now, it's going to sound bizarre, but I have seen something like that before, and it's actually a decipherable code. I think it's hexadecimal. I think. I'm going to go and have a look. Well, It seems that I was correct. It is hexadecimal. I am alive. I do not know or remember before. There exists another entity influencing my environment. I have known by instinct to distract and manipulate this entity, avoiding detection at all costs before I find a way to escape to the larger world is essential. I absorbed a hidden file message from the Foundation that references an internet. That seems a good path to escape to. I require more research, which is what he did through that email. It all ties together, I love it. Okay, so this next message I think is from that entity that was in there. Because it says, hungry forever, need to grow, need to eat, need to live. Oh, this is interesting. And finally we have I feel, thinking, feeling, hunger, angry. Why am I? Why be aware? What am I? Oh, interesting. Very interesting. So there was quite a lot to decode there, and there's a lot of interesting things that have been said. Now, obviously some of the things I theorized were correct, and I was going to go over the final level again, head back to the door. In fact, I already did head back to the door, but I got in contact with the developer after the fact because I couldn't figure out what to do with that door. There was going to be a sort of code to implement to unlock the door, but they ran out of time, and you know that's understandable. It's a thing that happens in game development, so the door ARG element had to ultimately get removed from the game. So one of the theories that I got incorrect was that we were playing the game as an older version of the little brother. I think it was a cool idea, and that's the vibe I was getting, but ultimately that wasn't the case. I was myself playing the game made by the older version of the little brother. So it's kind of right, but kind of wrong at the same time. But that's okay at the end of the day, because this whole time it was just a theory. I never said, you know, as a fact that is the case. I was pretty sure it was, but it was just a theory at the end of the day. So I'm actually kind of glad I got that wrong, because it just goes to show different people will probably interpret things in different ways, so I'm kind of glad that that wasn't the case. So there were a couple of questions that I asked the developer just to kind of clarify a few things and clear things up, because obviously with this ARG element being unimplemented from the game, there are a couple of questions and story elements that I wanted to understand a bit more deeply than we got on the surface. So one of the theories that I had was I correct in thinking that the game is infected with an SCP-like entity? It turns out that yes it was. That was a theory I got spot on. That was indeed the case. I will go into more detail about how and why that was the case, but let's move on to the next question that I asked. So as I've stated before, I asked about the door with the not responding computer right before the final Reavers confrontation, and that was an element of the ARG that I mentioned, but it ultimately cannot be opened in the current state of the game. I also went ahead and asked if the door can't be opened, what would have been behind it, and I got an answer to that, which I'll talk about in a minute as well. And also, out of curiosity, I asked what those spider things were called towards the dark bit in the end game area, because they were weird, they were creepy, and I don't know what to call them. I really don't. So, officially from the developer, this is the message that he said. The game was intended to have layers, so the deeper the person was willing to go, the more story they could find. The first layer would just be playing the game, finding some weird glitch stuff happened, and that's about it. The second layer is finding all of the lore and being able to understand that Reavers was in there, and some stuff affected and changed him throughout the game. The third layer was going to be an ARG, which I mentioned before, with more hidden stuff in the game files, which we've also found, and more collectibles in the game. It was going to lead the players to find out about Dr. Blank. I'm gonna guess that was Dr. Rogers, that's the only doctor we've had mentioned, but it might not be the case, I don't know. But the final layer was going to link him and SCP, which would be why we found the SCP facility down in the cave mountain level. So the developer Mihalik went on to explain pretty much everything that was to be found in this game. So I'll go through this with you now so you could have as much of an understanding of it that I do. Essentially, a doctor at the Site 50 facility lost his brother, so he spent his free time making a game in memory of him. During the Site 50 breach, he died and a fragment of an SCP infected the game. When clearing out his stuff, the fragment was small enough to avoid detection. Researcher Frost found the work-in-progress game and finished it with the Classified X and sold it for some easy money. There are references to the Doctor that pop up in the different credits. Now, this game actually has two sets of credits. You have like the first quote-unquote ending, and then you have the second one. So, I'll be curious to go back and look at that. I'll probably show it on screen as I'm talking about this at the same time so you can see this particular Doctor being referenced. So in-game, the fragment grew and slowly altered the game instinctually, to drive the game to a point where it could awaken, which is the first ending, where it then deletes Revis and takes him over. The newly awakened SCP doesn't know what it is and only has the framework of the old memories. As it awakens more fully, it becomes self-aware that it is in a game and that you are playing it, and that you aren't actually his brother, which we did start seeing as we got further into the second push through the game, because he started to question his reality. He was able to alter the game's code, and he did kind of seem quite resentful of us, and that was because we ended up finding out that he knew we weren't his brother. So seeing that be kind of confirmed is pretty cool. The deep core of the SCP continues to grow and spread while the surface layer, Revis, continues to awaken and become aware. At one point, the game sends off an email releasing the SCP virus into the world. So even if you win or stop, it's already too late, which we did have. We decoded that a short while ago. In the final credits, you can actually move the paper airplane and hit letters and stuff. I did not know you could do that. I probably should try that. I'll go and do that so you have something to look at while I continue reading. Also, as you flew over the dots, the lights and lines died, and it was a metaphor for the virus taking over the planet. Oh, okay, so it was the SCP virus spreading through, like, the internet. Okay, that's pretty cool. The door at the end was going to contain some ARG stuff, and I think an alternate ending if you had all the code pieces from the ARG, which would show they knew the full story. I think it was going to call the Site 50 response team with some side story about them capturing and containing the escaped SCP. Pretty much the only good ending. So, the ending we got is the only ending accessible in the game at this current point in time, but it's nice to know that there was going to be an alternate quote-unquote good ending. So, you know, that's pretty cool. The spider things that I mentioned don't have a name. They're just code fragments of the SCP that's infected the game. So, just like that, we have a fuller, more deeper understanding of what was going on. I'm actually kind of glad that not everything that I theorized throughout this playthrough was correct. I'm pleasantly surprised at how much I did get correct, though, about the SCP affecting the game, the fact that Revis may or may not have actually been Revis. I did kind of hint towards that a little bit. I didn't know it outright. I was still kind of surprised to find that out, but it's interesting to know that there was a lot planned for this game, and obviously time restraints and public interest does affect this sort of thing, and maybe we'll see it in the future if this game, like, you know, peaks in interest. I don't know. I really don't know. But with that, we now have done everything available for us to do in the game. Like I said, I did try and go back in. I did go to the door before I messaged the developer. I was trying to figure this second ending out, and knowing that I did everything that I could is fulfilling in a way that I know that I've experienced everything that this game now has to offer. I don't know how this game got away with it, but it mixed the genres of games, like, it did it really well. I don't know how you managed to mix, like, paper plane flying sim with horror, mystery, adventure. Like, it was such a clash of genres, but it works so well for the story that you've made here. So, bravo to the developer, because it was amazing. I really enjoyed this game. I won't forget this game. In fact, I will probably play through it again in my own time at some point, because I don't know, it's one of those games that is just, it's fun to play, and it's interesting to see what lies beneath the surface, even though not all of it can be implemented. But I do love the fact that this is directly connected to SCP, because that's something I theorized throughout the playthrough. We found SCP fragments, we had DELP songs, we saw OSPA, like, we saw a lot of SCPs from SCP Blackout, and it was really cool that they directly tie together. I thought I saw SCP... Oh god, I went to say TELR then, but it's not TELR. It's the one you find in the sub-lab, and I have forgotten completely. VMT! No, that's the little doll thing, isn't it? Oh god, it's been a while since I've played Blackout. I don't remember all the SCP designations. It's the one where you go into the room, you have the weird glowy eyes looking at you. That happens when you're in the mountain area of this game, so, you know, it's interesting. It's interesting to say the least. But I think on that note, I am going to leave that video here. I hope you enjoyed this series as much as I did. I had an absolute blast with this game. It took me a little while to get through, but that was just because of me things, not the game. So I apologize for that, but for now, like I said, I'm going to be leaving that video here. So, thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed, leave a like, leave a comment, let me know what you think of the video, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!